Music is one of the most documented industries in the world. Think about all the musical celebrities you know in the world. People know pretty much every single detail of their life. If you give me any picture of Elvis Presley, I could probably tell you the month and year that that picture was taken. And this is because they're in the spotlight all the time. People, they look up to them and they want to be like them and they want to know everything about them. And yet, some of the biggest names in music have been thrown about in this conspiracy wheel. People who have changed their look or changed their sound or have been killed or died. And all of these sudden changes and deaths bring up some really unreal questions that people genuinely think is true. Is Avril Lavigne a completely different person? Is Elvis still alive somewhere? And so I thought in this video, why don't we look into some of them and we can see what people believe and why they believe it. The first one I want to talk about is Avril Lavigne. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not an Avril Lavigne listener, but I've got friends who are, and they talk about this quite a lot. A lot of people believe that Avril Lavigne, in 2003, and they think that she was secretly replaced by a body double. That's a conspiracy. And yes, that probably sounds insane to all of the, normal people out there, but millions and millions of people think that this is completely valid. And there are people who have genuine evidence that it's real. So for those of you like me before this video who don't really understand much of Lavigne's life, that's hard to say, let me give you a little bit of context. She was this massive pop punk legend, all doing all this stuff like, he's just a skater boy, that song, why you gotta make things so complicated, that song. She had a lot of those songs. And she had this very distinct image that brought pop punk into the world. And quite quickly, she became one of the biggest artists in the 2000s. A decade which I pretty much didn't live through. Yeah, I'm a little kid, deal with it. But she especially popped up when she released her album Let Go in 2002. And after this album, this image, this distinct image that she had, started changing quite a lot. As I said before, this all started around 2002, 2003. But the theory didn't start coming until about 2011. From what I saw, this Brazilian blog came up with this wild story about why she changed so much. They said that she went from being this shy country girl into this big city, amazing, rich, super cool star and all that. And she couldn't handle it. And so she did that to herself. And if you think about it from the manager's point of view, this kid has just started making you loads and loads and loads and loads of money. And she's just gone. You want to keep making money. And so what's the most logical thing to do? Hire someone who looks like her to just replace her. I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know. So this is where the name Melissa Vandella comes in. And this Brazilian blog claimed that this Melissa girl replaced Avril Lavigne in 2003. And from there, the theory started spreading everywhere on the internet because it must explain why someone who just has changed their music taste. So let's go through all the evidence that supports this. First, her actual appearance. People say there are changes in things like her face shape, her nose, and her just general style. But let's be real, people change over time. Like if I release an album 2 years ago, it would have been entirely an Elvis style album. But if I release one now, it would be more of a Van Halen style album. Just like how 2 years ago, I didn't look like this. And 2 years from now, I'm not going to look like this. Secondly, handwriting differences. There are some fans that compared her handwriting and her signature from one time to another time, and apparently it was completely different, and that's evidence that she's a different person. But again, handwriting, it changes over time. Take a look at my handwriting. In 2 years' time, I'm not going to write like that. 2 years ago, I probably didn't write like that. And that's kind of blown up even more because think how many freaking thousands of people's stuff that she signed. Third, the thing that people talk about the most is the personality shift. Early on, she was massively rebellious, which you can guess from pop punk. But over time, she became more polished and more pop focused when it came to her music. And again, let's think about that. That's not massively unusual. Artists evolve, trends change. I'm sure a lot of the people that you listen to have changed their sound over time. Also, a trend with a lot of these conspiracy theories is that people think that she was hiding these messages in her lyrics. Yes, People think that she was like actually doing that. Just like people think that there's satanic messages if you play a Led Zeppelin song backwards. People, man, people actually believe this stuff. But some fans think that Avril actually hinted at the fact that she died and was replaced by someone else in her lyrics. And if you do look at the lyrics, yeah, you might see that, oh, that could mean that. But think of all our English teachers. They pull the most random stuff out of text. Like you could be reading a book and the English teacher's like, the boy ate spaghetti, and somehow they'd link it to the horse. Like that, lyrics can mean anything. And if you're actually reading those lyrics, trying to find something, you're probably going to find that thing, even if it's not there, because you're actively trying to find it. Anyways, that's enough about Avril Lavigne. Let's get on to the second person, someone that my mother absolutely loves, Jim Morrison from The Doors. Now, Jim Morrison died in 1971. Officially, it was heart failure. I think he was in a bathtub and he OD'd. The 70s, man, what can I tell you? But there was no autopsy. There was no, properly clear cause. And there are a lot of unanswered questions about what actually happened. And since 1971, people have been saying, no, he's still alive, he's still alive. And people have claimed to actually have seen him in the world. So, before we get into the conspiracies, let's get into proper facts if you don't know who Jim Morrison is. Jim Morrison was a singer of the band The Doors, and he died July 3rd, 1971 in Paris when he was 27, famous member of the 27 Club. He moved to Paris with his girlfriend to escape fame and legal issues that were going on in the US. But, sad times, he was found in his bathtub in his apartment. But here's the thing, there wasn't an autopsy done because there was no evidence of foul play, so they didn't feel like they needed to do an autopsy. And this decision was a big reason as to why people think he didn't actually go. Usually, celebrities do get autopsies, not just for fans to have closure, but for the families as well. Secondly, the limited amount of witnesses that actually saw his body. Most of the information about his passing was told by his girlfriend Pamela. And thirdly, his burial was very, very much rushed and people weren't allowed to actually see it happen. So, what's a reasonable explanation for what happened? Well, it's the 70s, he's a musician with a lot of money. I think you can probably guess where this is going. People think that he OD'd. And this is the most widely accepted version of what happened. But people say that he OD'd in a nightclub as opposed to actually in his own home. The most common place actually mentioned is the rock and roll circus. And the reason why people think that this is all shrouded in mystery, people thought that Jim took the H drug, that one, didn't realise that it was the H drug, and he overdosed on it, and then people moved his body back to his house to avoid a scandal because that would go crazy in the media. But there's no hard proof for that, but again, there's not going to be hard proof for anything. But people in Paris probably could have given statements about this actually happening. But the thing is, it does kind of work better than just a sudden heart failure that people always claimed happened. So, that's a more believable idea. What's the less believable idea? It's thought that he faked his own demise. And believe it or not, this theory is a lot weaker. The idea is that Jim Morrison faked it so he could escape fame, which, you know what, fair enough. This is because people think they see him being a superintendent in a random hotel, or people claim that they just see him existing. But there's no credible evidence, there's no proper sightings of him. There's no documents and there's no proof of any actual type of planning. And let's be real, if he were to pull this off, that would take a lot of people and a lot of resources to actually do. That doesn't hold up. And in fact, I saw an interview with Ray Manzarek, the keyboardist for The Doors, who said if Jim was still alive, Ray would know about it and he would still go see Jim because they're really great friends. So is that Ray just covering up, or is he actually wanting to see his best friend again, but he can't because his best friend died in 1971? So, last but not least, one of my absolute favourite musicians of all time, Elvis Presley. If you don't know him, get out, I'm joking. Elvis Presley was a massively famous singer from 1955 up to 1977 when he died. Officially, it was a heart attack on the toilet that he got. Something that I think everybody knows, because whenever I mention his name, people go, haha, on the toilet with a cheeseburger. Anyways, I digress. But for decades and decades and decades, people have thought that he faked his death to get away from the mafia. Elvis was an honorary member of the FBI because he had a cheeky little badge, because he liked collecting badges and guns and all that fun stuff. People thought that he was uncovering the mafia, or he was working with the mafia, but he ratted them out, or he owed them money, or they owed him money. There's so many theories about it. And people thought the only way that he could escape from these bad people is to fake himself. And there's more evidence claiming that people see him all the time. There's a guy called Bob Joyce. Everyone says looks like Elvis and sounds like Elvis and speaks like Elvis and thinks like Elvis. Go look up Bob Joyce and see what you think. Another thing is that Elvis's middle name is Aaron. Now, his parents weren't massively educated growing up in Tupelo, Mississippi, and so they spelt it wrong, spelled A-R-O-N. But on his death certificate, it was A-A-R-O-N. Now, people think that that is a reason why he's faked his death. Well, not a reason, but it's an example of why he faked his death, because it's the wrong name. People don't know that he actually hated the fact that his middle name was misspelt, and so he changed it. He legally changed it. But Elvis is one of the most loved musicians of all time. In fact, he's the most impersonated person ever. One of the most covered songs in the world is Can't Help Falling in Love. He's this massively famous dude. And when he goes, people don't want to know that. People want to think that he's still alive and have hope. And so if they see a guy walking down the street and, he's got sideburns and slicked hair, if they want him to still be alive, they'll be like, that must be him. I can be happy now. Another thing is that at his funeral, people thought that the body didn't look quite right. But it's a funeral. There's types of embalming and lighting and all types of preservation that makes someone try and look similar, but they won't always look similar. But fake deaths are something that are incredibly common with the most famous people in the world. I'm sure if Donald Trump died right now, people probably think that he faked it. Just like if, I don't know, Taylor Swift or Sabrina Carpenter or Harry Styles, I'm trying to think of famous people now. If any of them went, there will be lots of people who can't accept the fact that they're gone and they need to not exactly move on, but they need to, get on with life and accept the fact and grieve. But for some people, they can't grieve, and so they look for reasons as to why they can keep holding on to hope. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. We may make fun of all the people that come up with these conspiracies and like flat earth and all that. But if it's a way someone copes, maybe we can just let them cope. Although a lot of them are probably really annoying because they like shove the theory in your face. But that's not the point. A big reason as a whole as to why conspiracy theories are a thing is because things change and, no, we don't always like change. Yeah, sometimes people will die and people will be like really happy and celebrate it, which is completely wrong. And other times people will incredibly grieve and ruin their lives because the most famous person that they know and have loved for however many long years in their life is gone, and they can't accept that. Just like religion. I wouldn't consider myself religious, but a lot of people use it as a way to think, oh, my life is meaning because there's something after this that I can strive to and like live for. For a lot of people, that form is famous people like Elvis, like listening to his music for decades of their life. Or people like Michael Jackson, or Jim Morrison, or Avril Lavigne. If people love Avril Lavigne's original music and they don't like the way that she changed styles, maybe if they hear someone give them a really good reason, well, what they think is a really good reason, as to why that change happened, the change that they don't like, maybe they might get comfort in the fact that, oh, she must have been replaced by someone else. Because the Avril Lavigne that I love in here, she's still the person that I love in here. She's not this new pop-polished person. Again, I'm not one to talk about Avril Lavigne because I don't really listen to her. But you get the idea. A lot of this is just a form of escapism, something people trying to help cope with their lives with. But anyways, I've been yapping a lot, so I really hope you enjoyed this video, and like, subscribe, join the Patreon, do all that fun stuff. Comment down below what your favourite theory is, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. Bah! Epic transition to end.